everyone, my name's Fluffy. Can you believe that this dress is the only thing I fit into just a few months ago? Back then, I weighed 110 kilos and couldn't walk 100 meters without catching my breath. Do you want to know what made me change and lose 50 kilos? Then be sure to watch the story to the end. And don't forget to like it. Meet my parents. These are my mom and dad. I think it's clear at first glance that obesity is our family problem. But Mom and Dad have never worried about it. They were both chubby from childhood. They got to know each other and became friends when they were still in school. Parents watched with smiles as these two sweet kids walked together, helped each other with everything, and grew up. When they moved on to high school, they started dating. And after college, they got married and started their family. They really wanted to have at least 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Time ticked away, but my mom couldn't get pregnant. They went to the doctor, had numerous examinations, and then took a course of treatment. A year later, I was born. Words can't express how happy they were. I became a long-awaited child, so they surrounded me with love and care. I guess it's safe to say that I grew up to be a very spoiled child. If I didn't want to eat porridge for breakfast, I didn't eat it. My mother would give me fruit puree or cookies instead. If I couldn't wake up in the morning to go to kindergarten, my parents would turn a blind eye, and my mother would take me to work and I would draw or watch cartoons all day there. By the way, do you know what my mother's job was and still is? She's a pastry chef. Cookies, pastries, buns, pies. She could make anything. And I ate it all with joy beyond measure. Of course, my mother tried to feed me fruits and vegetables, but I was naughty and cried, and she couldn't resist my tears. Eventually, despite the fact that I wasn't born a large child, I was 3 times bigger than my classmates by the age of 10. Did it bother me? No, it didn't. The kids were still friends with me. We played together at school or just outside, even though I was quite clumsy and not as fast as the others in some of the active games. Of course, there were some not very well-mannered boys who teased me, but I wasn't offended. I knew that I was fat, and you can't be offended by the truth. By the time I got to high school, I weighed 110 kilos. The only clothes I could wear were shapeless dresses and sweatshirts that looked more like garbage bags than fashionable outfits for a girl of 16. But I didn't care. Up until the day the new boy showed up in our class, it was corny enough. But as soon as Patrick walked into class with our teacher, I fell in love with him. Just like the books say at first sight, Patrick moved with his parents from Brazil. He was tall, had dark skin, unusual blue eyes, and a great figure. He just put all the other guys in the shade. He immediately got everyone to like him. He enjoyed discussing soccer with the guys because he played it and knew all the teams and players. And he talked about music bands and popular movies with the girls. The teachers who tested his knowledge were surprised and admired how smart, well-read, and many-sided he was. So there was a new star in our school, and every girl dreamed that she would be the one he would pay attention to. And I also managed to fall in love with him. It was a game in which I was already among the losers. Who would look at an overeater weighing 110 kilos when there are attractive cheerleaders around? To please Patrick, they wore their most beautiful outfits that emphasized their slim figures or the length of their legs, and I hid in my shapeless and dimensionless dresses. And I probably would not have dared talk to Patrick if it hadn't been for the history teacher who paired us up for a project. You should have seen the eyes of my classmates. They were all jealous of me, but they couldn't help it. Patrick, on the other hand, seemed completely indifferent to the choice of the teacher. He didn't single anyone out and tried to communicate equally well with everyone. Of course, I was very worried about whether we would get along, but it turned out that I didn't have to be nervous. Patrick was very friendly and helpful. We shared the responsibilities of preparing the project, and he offered to prepare it together in the library. Every night he insisted on walking me home, as it was getting late. I couldn't believe my own happiness. I knew he was probably just being polite, but I was still very happy. I knew that once we finished the project, Patrick and I would part ways. I decided that I would admit that I liked him on the last day. Of course, there was little chance that he would return the compliment, but I just couldn't be silent. We successfully prepared the project, defended it, and got a perfect score. The teacher marked our work as one of the best. To celebrate our success, Patrick invited me to a cafe, and I thought it was a perfect chance to confess my feelings to him. We drank coffee and had fun conversations about something. I knew that Patrick was about to ask the waiter to bring the bill, which meant that I could no longer put it off. I got the nerve to confess to Patrick that I'd liked him at first sight, and that working together had allowed me to get to know him better, and that my feelings had only grown stronger. Honestly, I expected Patrick to be very surprised by my confession, but he just smiled and said he had guessed. Had I somehow given myself away? Seeing that he wasn't going to laugh at me, I decided to go ahead and ask Patrick out. What if he said yes? Patrick hesitated, and I was ready to accept the rejection, but he didn't refuse. You wouldn't believe it. Patrick agreed. He did, however, stipulate a strict condition. I probably would have been offended otherwise, but first, it was Patrick I was in love with, and second, I knew very well that I had to do something about it myself. What do you think that condition was? I bet you've already guessed. Well, Patrick agreed to go out with me, but on the condition that I would lose weight, and not just 2 to 3 kilos, but 50. Another girl might have been offended by Patrick's words, but I already couldn't look at myself in the mirror lately. Anyway, I accepted the rules of the game and took care of myself. First, I told my mother that I would no longer eat anything floury, fatty, or sweet, and therefore I said goodbye to cakes, pies, and other baked foods. After carefully studying everything that was written about diets on the internet, I chose healthy foods for myself. Mostly, of course, this was about vegetables and lean meat. I made a menu for a week and tried to stick to it. At the beginning, it was very difficult. It seemed that I constantly wanted to eat. But after a week, it became much easier, and I even began to enjoy eating. I joined a gym. It wasn't easy for me to decide to go to the gym, for I knew in advance that there would be beauties with trim bodies around. However, a date with Patrick was a strong motivator. I had no right to give up at the beginning of my journey. Of course, the coach was very surprised. He probably hadn't had such a fat trainee in a long time, but he took up the case with enthusiasm. He promised me that we would definitely get the result I needed. I had no time limit. I could spend a month or a year on losing weight, but it was unlikely that Patrick would wait a year for me, for he had a waiting list of applicants for the role of his girlfriend. And that was exactly the continuation of the date I had dreamed of. I hoped that he would become my boyfriend. I lost weight rapidly. Apparently, the wrong diet was one of my main problems, because as soon as I replaced burgers, pizza, and pastries with broccoli and turkey, I immediately began to lose weight. The doctor I consulted beforehand warned me that such extreme weight loss could be dangerous for the body, but my body seemed to be happy to get rid of it. Anyway, after 4 months, I was unrecognizable. I'm not kidding, and I'm not exaggerating. I had lost 50 kilos. It's even scary to imagine how much that is in volume and size. For the first time, I could afford to choose the clothes I liked, not the ones that would hide my extra weight. And that was real happiness. I felt like an attractive girl. Of course, Patrick saw the results of my hard work. By the way, he noticed the changes every month. He praised and supported me, and that motivated me even more to succeed. And today, we're going on a date. I'm extremely worried. I'm really afraid that it won't go the way I dreamed it would. But I've already done too much to back out at the finish line. Wish me luck. And while I'm having a great time on my date, tell me, would you have the willpower to make your dream come true? Would you be able to give up your usual lifestyle? Write your answers in the comments to this video. If you liked my story, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the Life Stories channel. If you don't want to miss new videos, be sure to turn on notifications. Bye-bye, everyone.